Have you ever heard of a 15-year-old hacker who dared to challenge the CIA? The story we are about to tell sounds like science fiction, but it is completely true. A British teenager named Kane Gamble, with the nickname Cracka, and his American accomplice Justin Liverman, known as Defalt, not only successfully infiltrated some of the world's most strictly guarded systems, but Cracka also had the audacity to call and mock CIA Director John Brennan and Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. This young hacker made the FBI, the intelligence agencies, the police, and everyone involved in hunting him down struggle. And when he was finally caught, the way he was trapped wasn't due to carelessness or surveillance. So what happened? How could a mere boy accomplish such earth-shattering feats? What drove him to target the CIA? You are watching the True Crime Channel. Let's dive into the most mysterious cases and the most thrilling stories. And as usual, before we begin today's video, please leave a like and subscribe to support us. Now, let's explore today's story. The story begins in West Midlands, UK, where a 15-year-old boy lived an ordinary life like any other. His greatest passion was gaming, and Counter-Strike always held a special place in his heart. This boy had immense curiosity. Sitting in front of the screen, he didn't just want to play, he wanted to shine, to be truly different. So he started tinkering with game hacks. Small passwords and tricks gradually became weapons, making him immortal in battles, letting him walk through walls, defeat every opponent, and comfortably top the leaderboards. But the notable thing is that he didn't choose the honest path to greatness. Instead, he preferred to be king through tricky, deceitful means. This is where the seed of a turbulent journey was sown. He gave himself the alias Defalt, a simple-sounding name that subtly held the ambition to master everything his own way. Defalt's father worked for the government. His job was so busy that he rarely had time to check on his son. The boy's days revolved around going to school, playing a little football, and then plunging into the virtual world on his computer until the following morning. He spent at least 5 hours staring at the screen every day. Life went on like this until one day his mother discovered her son was cheating in games. Worried that her son would get too deeply involved in these activities, she cut Defalt's internet access for a week. But who knew that with Defalt's innate curiosity, it only took him 10 minutes to crack his neighbor's Wi-Fi and comfortably use the free network. It was lightning fast. That very moment flipped a switch in his head. Defalt realized he was not only good at gaming, but also had a special talent with computers, a knack for infiltration and discovering things that seemed impossible. His burning curiosity, coupled with the necessity of having internet access, drove Defalt to learn programming and computer hacking. He wanted complete control over his device, like a king wielding life and death power in his digital kingdom. Those were the first steps that led him into the professional hacking world. It all started in 2008, a year no tech enthusiast could forget. At that time, the anonymous hacker group was at its peak, running rampant across the digital world, astounding everyone. Defalt was already a great admirer of Anonymous and considered them his idols. He was fascinated, mimicking their actions and their daring mindset. In 2008, Anonymous demonstrated terrifying power. From their small bedrooms, they could manipulate giant corporations, causing global turmoil. Seeing his idols accomplish such miracles, Defalt told himself, "I must be able to do that too." With burning determination, Defalt began a non-stop self-learning journey. He tinkered with hacking simple websites like a young scientist's first experiments. First one site, then two, then three. They were all rudimentary websites without firewall protection. He watched tutorial videos on exploiting vulnerabilities, tried, failed, and got back up. Like a whirlwind, in less than a year, he transformed into a true hacker. What was the biggest goal in Defalt's heart at this time? It was to join Anonymous, the hacker group he had long idolized. But that path was not easy. In 2008, Anonymous was being fiercely hunted after a series of shocking incidents. They weren't easily opening their doors to new members, especially when dozens of others yearned to join. Moreover, as the group grew stronger, the vetting process for candidates became even stricter. But Defalt didn't give up. He persistently trained, waiting for the day his opportunity would come. Anyone who paid attention to information technology in 2008 surely remembers. The press at the time was saturated with news about Anonymous, the dark knights who shook the digital world. And in a small corner of West Midlands, a 15-year-old boy was quietly writing his own story. Although he couldn't grasp his dream of joining Anonymous, Defalt wasn't discouraged. Instead, he found a new haven, the AnonSec Group, a smaller hacker collective similar to Anonymous. AnonSec operated on a clear principle: attacking political organizations using botnets, networks of infected computers under remote control. That sounds strange. So, what is a botnet? Simply put, it is a collection of computers compromised by viruses, malicious links from websites, pirated games, or any other online form. Once in the hands of a hacker, they become an invisible army, ready to spread spam, viruses, or launch denial-of-service (DDoS) attacks. For Defalt, AnonSec was like a doorway to the world he longed for. Stepping into it, Defalt quickly integrated. He became deeply involved in the activities, finding the work exciting and constantly learning from the seasoned members, the masters of the digital world. The group's botnet network grew stronger, with a host of controlled computers joining the army. And as I mentioned, Defalt was a curious child. He wanted to understand his botnet world thoroughly, so he decided to infiltrate one of the computers in that network. Upon compromising the infected computer, Defalt discovered it was a computer at the University of Windsor School of Medicine in Canada. Before he could fully process this, Defalt discovered something even more astonishing. From this computer, he could access the school's finances. Why was it so easy for Defalt to do this? The secret lies in one of our habits. Everyone saves their email, passwords, or important information on their devices for convenience and to avoid re-entering passwords. Therefore, once he infiltrated the computer, Defalt could access everything. This computer clearly belonged to an important figure, someone with access to the school's treasury. Defalt started digging around, looking through student records. He could see every name, who had paid tuition, who was still in debt. A list of 391 students with outstanding balances gradually appeared. Each owed massive amounts, $70,000, $100,000. The total debt amounted to $9.4 million. But the biggest surprise of all came when he scrolled to the bottom of the list, and a button popped up labeled Clear All School Debt. Faced with this choice, Defalt had two paths: press yes to erase the $9.4 million or press no and stop. With his curious and slightly mischievous nature, he didn't hesitate to choose yes. With just one click, that massive debt vanished like a soap bubble. Defalt later recounted that he was sure many students sighed in relief, perhaps secretly thanking him as a benefactor. After all, a debt of tens of thousands of dollars was a heavy burden for them, not easily lifted. And Defalt? He felt thrilled by what he had done. But you might wonder how a single button could clear nearly $10 million in debt. The university should have had backups and physical records to deal with such a situation. Yet they did not. They left too many loopholes in this situation. For Defalt, this was the first hack that truly left a mark. After this, he became even more interested in infiltration, making him even more passionate about the path he had chosen. In 2014, a bizarre event shocked the world in Denmark. There, the law permitted what was called zoophilia, or simply put, sexual relations with animals. A strange, twisted law, wasn't it? It completely contradicted morality and made anyone who heard it shudder. This law even allowed the buying and selling of animals for these perverse acts. The matter quickly caught Defalt's attention. He felt extremely indignant, especially since his close friend also owned a dog. He wondered if he could ever forgive someone for harming his dog. The answer was no. Absolutely not. So why could Denmark pass such a bizarre and inhumane law? Thus, Defalt and the AnonSec group decided to take action to protect animal rights. Defalt and the group decided to take an extremely bold, crazy action. Beyond all imagination, they completely wiped out the official website of the Danish government. Not stopping there, like silent warriors in the dark, they defamed the country's reputation by posting questions online such as, "Did you know your government allows perverted acts with animals?" At the same time, they shut down all animal trade websites, posting images and articles denouncing the abuse of animals. This information quickly spread worldwide, and international public opinion strongly condemned the Danish government's actions. Denmark's image, once a peaceful country, suddenly became a symbol of inhumanity. Other nations criticized it, turning Denmark into a laughingstock among the global populace. The most astonishing thing of all was that this was caused by a small group of young hackers, including Defalt. Just imagine the extent of their power. Under public pressure, the Danish government was forced to ban zoophilia nationwide. Defalt and Anonsec were incredibly proud of their achievement. Defalt often recounted that his group operated like a bunch of bored friends who gathered to discuss injustices and then took action together. But for them, the goal had to be righteous, at least according to their perspective. Most attacks stemmed from good intentions, and this hack was the clearest proof. Following that victory, Defalt became even more determined to hone his skills, like a blacksmith forging a sword, aiming to rise to the top of the hacker world. Concurrently, Defalt began venturing into a new field, cryptocurrency. He soon proved that he was not only a skilled hacker, but also had a sharp mind for digital currency and earned a massive fortune from it. Defalt even revealed that since 2011 he had owned over 1,000 Bitcoin. That sounds simple, but currently one Bitcoin is worth about $90,000. Do the math, 1,000x $90,000. Defalt held $90 million, a staggering figure. However, he wasn't in a hurry to spend it. Instead, encrypting and storing the Bitcoin in a hard drive, like a treasure vault tightly secured in a safe. One crucial detail cannot be overlooked. Defalt was always so careful that he was virtually invisible. He never used his home Wi-Fi. Instead, he connected to the internet via satellite using a signal dish. This method made his IP address and location mysterious and untraceable. Furthermore, Defalt's computer was thoroughly encrypted. Each time he booted it up, he might have to wait 30 to 45 minutes for the system to finish starting. Thanks to these fortress-like layers of protection, tracking Defalt was extremely difficult and complicated for anyone. He was not just a smart hacker, but a phantom appearing and disappearing in the digital world. In May 2013, a new law passed in the United States caused a global stir. This law allowed the FBI and the U.S. government the right to monitor anyone in the country. Like a fierce wave, it immediately sparked strong public opposition. Defalt was among those who protested. He felt indignant about this decision. It completely changed his view of the U.S. government. It was as if a curtain concealing the true face of the American government had just been pulled down. Previously, he might have seen them as protectors, but now all that remained was disappointment. So, Defalt and his friends decided to launch a counterattack. He wanted the powerful to experience the feeling of being monitored and violated, the exasperation endured by every citizen. Defalt got to work. He groped around, gathering confidential intelligence, information that was difficult for ordinary people to access. To enhance his power, he collaborated with a prominent hacker group at the time, Crackers with Attitudes. This group was led by a 15-year-old British boy named Kane Gamble, whose alias was Cracka. The group's name also stemmed from his alias. The two boys shared the same ideology and the same hatred for injustice in the world. Both were particularly outraged by the U.S.'s deep interference in the Middle East region. Cracka himself cared about the issue of Palestine. He questioned why the U.S. always intervened in this region. Therefore, the two boys, sharing the same goal, decided to teach the American giant a lesson they would never forget. Their first target was James Clapper, a significant figure in the U.S. intelligence community. The journey to hack Clapper began with a silly mistake by the man himself, publicly posting his phone number and home address online. For Cracka, that was like a wide-open door. He quickly infiltrated Clapper's email inbox. At that time, if you knew someone's email, you could select Forgot Password. The system would send a 4-digit code, and if guessed correctly, the new password would be yours. The interesting thing was that the number of attempts wasn't limited. Unlike now, where accounts are easily locked after a few incorrect tries, Cracka patiently tried every code until the email door opened. After gaining access to Clapper's email and knowing his exact home address, Cracka redirected Clapper's calls to a Palestinian organization, meaning anyone calling Clapper was immediately routed to that organization for them to use freely. This action killed 2 birds with 1 stone. It panicked Clapper and sent a strong message regarding U.S. policy in the Middle East, especially its support for Israel. Witnessing Cracka do this, Defalt couldn't help but admire him. He immediately went to Twitter to write a post expressing his respect for his collaborator. Imagine this. It all happened in 2013 when both were only 15 years old, an age when many are still preoccupied with playing, not confronting a superpower. From then on, the relationship between Defalt and Cracka grew closer. Defalt didn't just stop at collaboration, but joined Cracka's group to target high-ranking officials in U.S. intelligence agencies together. For them, this was not just a game but a war for justice, at least justice in their eyes. With every attack, they further proved that youth does not mean immaturity, but can be a force that shakes the world. Things escalated when Defalt and Cracka set their sights on John Owen Brennan, the director of the CIA, one of the most powerful figures in the intelligence world. But surprisingly, hacking Brennan turned out not to be so difficult. His personal information, phone number, and address was readily available on the internet. For someone like Brennan, simply typing his name into Google would bring up dozens of articles and websites mentioning him. Paradoxically, this very fame made him an easy target. Cracka quickly found Brennan's phone number, and in an incredibly reckless moment, he called the CIA director directly. Imagine 2 15-year-olds calmly mocking the head of the world's most powerful intelligence agency. Not stopping at a joke, they hurled insults at Brennan over the phone. In a challenging tone, they delivered a message to Brennan and the CIA. You must stop your acts of corruption and crime immediately. They told Brennan that he had never done anything good for the world. Everything the CIA did was criminal. Brennan was utterly shocked. He couldn't believe someone dared to call and insult him, let alone know his private phone number. Brennan didn't understand the purpose of these calls or the caller's intentions. Brennan panicked to the point of going into hiding. He went to an isolated location and stayed there. But that wasn't all. When Cracka broke into Brennan's email, he discovered top-secret, sensitive documents that could shake the entire United States. Along with Defalt, they decided to leak everything to WikiLeaks. Among the more than 47 pages of leaked documents were Brennan's confidential background files, from prior criminal records to crucial details related to controlled substances. And there was much other information that Brennan absolutely did not want made public on the internet. Furthermore, they exposed directives from the Obama administration regarding Middle East affairs, along with internal information from Congress. That amount of data was nothing short of a ticking time bomb that destabilized the entire country. Federal agents and high-ranking officials lived in fear, afraid to show their faces in public. Like birds whose wings were clipped before a storm, Defalt and Cracka didn't stop. They continued their attacks, stealing information from over 20,000 FBI agents and 9,000 Justice Department employees. A colossal trove of data fell into their hands, ready to be used at any time. Everything was publicly disclosed, rendering the U.S. government, with its supposedly invincible intelligence system, completely helpless. The powerful U.S. intelligence system was defeated by this group of teenage hackers. They couldn't locate, stop, or silence them. The American people were also indignant, questioning the government. They asked how the government could protect citizens' information if it couldn't even protect the information of the CIA and the Justice Department. How could the people trust the government with their personal information? It truly was a case of the chickens coming home to roost. Following all these events, Defalt and Cracka fully realized that their actions had serious global consequences, causing widespread discussion worldwide. They knew they would face severe penalties, especially Cracka. He was very worried about the consequences and planned to flee to Russia. Although Russia was far from the U.S., he still felt insecure. Do you think these kids stirred up the whole world and still haven't been caught? Because no one could find their whereabouts. So, how did Defalt finally get caught? This story is even more dramatic than a movie. That day, Defalt was engrossed in playing Xbox Live with a friend. While slightly intoxicated, he let slip to his friend that he was the one who hacked the accounts of the U.S. intelligence directors. He recounted everything he had done in detail, without hiding anything. He forgot who he was talking to because he was drunk. He wasn't sober. And this was the biggest mistake of Defalt's life. Imagine all the intelligence agencies were stumped. But in the end, Defalt confessed to his friend. This person called the FBI. And just like that, Defalt was caught. Defalt shared that he was too drunk at the time and lost control, never expecting his friend to believe what he said. Defalt thought his friend would assume he was just talking nonsense due to alcohol, never thinking his friend would call the FBI. Afterward, he was put under surveillance. The FBI followed him as he walked home from school. Defalt noticed a black car always parked outside his house, but didn't take any precautions. They monitored him even when he was online using his computer. One day, just as Defalt turned on his computer, the FBI raided his house. He recounted that he should have pulled the power cord immediately so the data would remain encrypted, rendering the FBI helpless. But when the police burst in, guns drawn, he panicked to the point of fainting. The FBI easily copied all the data, including the hard drive containing the 1,000 Bitcoin, a treasure worth $90 million. At the same time, Defalt was arrested. Cracka was also arrested in the UK. Both had all their computers confiscated. Cracka, 15 at the time of the offenses, was sentenced to 2 years in prison, while Defalt, 18 when arrested, was sentenced to 5 years in prison. This is considered one of the first cases where a person under 18 was convicted of cyber attack charges. In addition to 5 years in prison, Defalt, a U.S. citizen, was also fined $145,000 in restitution, while Cracka is a UK citizen. Both have now completed their sentences. So today's case has concluded everyone. It's unbelievable that teenagers could cause such upheaval in a powerful intelligence system. Defalt and Cracka are proof of the power of technology and its dark side. In your opinion, were they right or wrong? Can a noble goal justify extremist actions? Please leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Before you leave, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications to continue watching the next videos on the True Crime channel.